this will be one of our occasional broadcasts throughout the next month while I move house and we develop a new schedule for September, and it's beginning to look very exciting. We're getting all sorts of people now who are joining the team and contributing, down from Adam Hare, who is anxious to make sure that we all understand what's going on above us, the stars at night, to Stephen Catlin, who is keeping a very close eye on the Lewes District Council and indeed all of the local councils, and the people that are joining us, some from abroad, some from other parts of England, to let us know how various events are affecting their local communities, and together we can give a picture of perhaps the reflection that nobody else is giving to what's happening in the UK and what's happening in the world. Pretty ambitious? Yeah, but we're an ambitious lot. And why not be? It's easy to take the easy option, if you understand what I mean. That's a wonderful phrase, isn't it? You know what I mean. And indeed what we can do is give a reflection from around the world, which I'm going to do right now, because I was reading, now admittedly in a fairly liberal magazine, not a newspaper, about their team of journalists have been asking right around the world what everybody thinks of us. And it's strange enough, it's the one country where we always talk about the great relationship, the special relationship, the United States. That's about the only place where the politicians think that we're not badly off. The rest of the world think that we're in complete utter chaos and crisis. And indeed, I suppose we are. And I think there are two or three things that we have to pay attention to. But the one thing that really did strike me was that all the reactions pointed at all the things that are wrong with the UK. None of them reflected anything that was wrong with their own countries, although I suppose that wasn't the question that they were asked. But the thing that was missing to me was any suggestion about reform. There was nobody ever mentioned reform. And to be quite honest with you, unless people, it doesn't matter, politicians anywhere in the world, start to think in terms of reform, then countries will stagger from crisis to crisis. And it's all very well for EU leaders to start to point the fingers, which they are, and saying what a dickhead bunch we are in Britain, is none of them mention reform of the EU, for instance. Nobody mentions reform of some of the new states that we were so careful to liberate in 1990 and 2000, because they have slipped back in a lot of their old ways. Nobody mentioned reform. And for that matter, Boris Johnson, about 3 or 4 months ago, made a speech where he said that our governance in Britain is not fit for purpose, and that there's got to be a root and branch change. Now, it's easier said than done, the current lot that we've got in Westminster, but at least he recognised that we do need change, and we need change not only at the top, not only in London, but we need change all the way down the line to Lewes and other places that are governed, if you like, with some authority by local councils. Our own council needs reform, right? I haven't heard the new coalition, not a peep out of them, that I've seen anyway, in which they have publicly said, right, now we're in power, we talked about reform, we talked about change, now we're going to do it. They have been very quiet on that front. Mind you, it is summer, I suppose. Let's give them a little bit of time to see whether they come up with anything. But I am absolutely devastated that all the brave words have not seen any action so far. Perhaps they're back to their infighting. Coalitions rarely work, but perhaps we'll give this one a chance. As Stephen Catlin said, give it a chance, give it a chance. But reform is badly needed. It's needed at the administrative level, it's needed at the political level, and nobody wants to talk about reform. And as long as we keep on staggering along with things the way they are, then we're going to stagger from crisis to crisis. And people are fed up with it. That's why we've got a Trump, to some extent. That's why we've got a Boris. Although several people from overseas, while pointing out that Boris might look a bit of a buffoon, did say inside there is an edge of steel. And that they're quite interested to see what happens under his leadership. Although I must confess is that those around him who are less competent, less capable, are likely to try and sabotage anything that should be done, whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing or the in-between thing. It's sabotage is in their minds, because what we've got is we've got a bunch of MPs, and for that matter probably a bunch of councillors too, who really are only worried about their own positions and their own power and what it means to them. They have forgotten who they represent, and until they start to remember, or we get people in Westminster who are going to remember, then I'm afraid that change is not likely to come. Now, there was a little bit of gleam in the Labour Party today, because they are now saying that they realise that a lot of their MPs could be dumped. Now, if you think that's encouraging, don't get too excited, because what's likely to happen is that the small group of hardliners in the Labour Party will make sure that those who should be deselected aren't, and those who they want deselected are. So I think the reform there isn't going to be one that we necessarily welcome, but at least somebody is talking reform. EU, of all organisations, need reform. It needs bad reform, badly it needs reform. But are we going to get it? I doubt it. And until some of these politicians are either replaced with reformers, and there is a famous London gentlemen's club, as they call it. It's not a gentlemen's club anymore, but it is a private members club called the Reform Club, and it was formed to try and reform various parts of the British institution, British establishment in the 1800s. Well, perhaps we need a new one of these new tower blocks that are going up in London all over the place, called the Reform Tower. Perhaps what we should do is we should have a bar on the first floor. So what they can do is that they can get down there and start to talk reform. Oh, I'm rambling this morning, aren't I? But nobody wants change. At least we, at the level, there's a bus, the North York bus, but at least it should. Some of the hybrid type, the motor does cut out the lights, not this one. They put the noisy ones on in the morning to wake everybody up. I can't remember now, but I once stayed a summer in Saltash in Cornwall, and they had a knocker-up. They had a knocker-up for the people who went over into Portsmouth, Portsmouth, to work in the shipyards there. And he would come along and he would rap on everybody's window to make sure they were awake, and they would go to work, going across from Cornwall into Devon, I guess, and they would get to work. But now we have the buses, and we have the bin lorries, and so they make such a racket nobody could possibly sleep through it. Anyway, it's a Monday morning. It's an August month, a new month. I rambled, and I can't take anything quite seriously, because nobody else is going to take it seriously during this month. But it is time to gird our loins and come out at the end of it fresh and new. Now, I talk about reform, perhaps not reform, but change. We will be changing. We will be having more open programs where you can get involved, and we look forward to being able to enter into dialogue with you about anything that you care to talk about, but certainly local events, local politics, as they fit in to what's happening in the rest of the world. We are local, we're not parochial. Don't come to us with a lost dog. Very sympathetic. It's not the sort of thing we'll talk about. Anyway, until then, good to get off to a ranting start, even though I'm not making much sense this morning. Yes, so here we go. Toodle pip.